What's going on YouTube? Today we are going to build this bike. So without further ado, let's get cracking. First to remove from the box. Here we have the bike. Now you should find most bike manufacturers, you can remove the bike all as one piece. So you've got the front wheel that's normally detached, but attached to the bike somehow by zip ties or plastic. And then the back wheel, pull the whole thing out. Voila. And lay gently down on the floor. So here it is. We're going to put this one down so the front wheel is on the top, so we can remove that. Lay it down nice and gently. And also inside the box, you should get an accessories box and the seat and seat post already attached. Next, we're going to start removing everything, detaching everything from themselves. So there's lots of zip ties. You just start removing the zip ties. Make sure you're not cutting into any cables. You want to detach as much as you can right now. And careful when you're moving anything. So there we have a pannier rack. Next we want to remove the wheel, the front wheel, so we can get to the frame. And the wheel you'll find is normally always in the crank arm, so you need to slide that out. There we go, front wheel removed. We're going to put that to one side for now, don't need that. Continue removing zip ties. And for now you want to keep the protective foam, you can keep that on there so you don't damage anything while you're building. Just remove that as necessary. Again, making sure the zip ties, when you're cutting them, you're not cutting into any cables. Nice and careful. At this point, if you can stand it up on its front forks. And we can put the seat post in. We'll keep all the protective padding on. And this is, you don't have to, but really you should. You should grease the seat post so it doesn't seize in the future. So I'm going to do that now. Put the seat in. At this point, you're looking at, there's a lot of things here that need to be done. So it's going to be best to put this onto a bike stand. So we're going to do that. I like to put it on by the seat post. So we're going to raise the seat post so we have enough space to attach it to a bike stand. And then we'll go from there, removing all the other parts. So the next part I like to work with is the front forks, the handlebars, getting that all into place. So looks like here we've got a plastic top. We can just remove that. So we can remove the cardboard, and there's normally always a plastic cover here. We can just pop that right off. Okay, so we're going to remove some of the packaging just so we can see what's going on. Here we have the handlebars. It's good to remove the packaging on the handlebars so we can actually see which way it's meant to go on. But again, leaving on any protection that you don't need to remove right now just to protect the bike. Make sure you're not scratching. This is an important part of the fitting. You have to make sure that there's no knots in the cables. Everything's straight and secure, so you know where the handlebar is going to go. This one looks like it's going to go maybe like this. That looks better. These are still super high up, but I think we just need to adjust those later. I wanted to make sure that we can get the cables. The cables are going to be in front of the handlebars. You can see now that the cables are coming in front of the bicycle, in front of the handlebars, not behind. So that's always something to take your time on. I've seen a few bike builds where the cables are just not in the right way, and eventually they can cause rubbing, they can cause stress on the cables. So now we can tighten this We don't have to tighten it too much right now. We're going to make sure the bike is pretty straight, the forks are straight, the handlebars are straight, and then we have an Allen key up the top here, and it's just a case of tightening up the Allen key. Again, don't need to over tighten anything right now in case you need to make any adjustments. But that looks good. Now at this point we're going to slacken the handlebar with the bolts at the front, so then we can just twist the handlebars into the correct position. So down more like this. Again, doesn't have to be perfect right now. We can make adjustments when we sit on the bike, but for now that looks right. With when the hand is down, it's going to be flush against the brakes, and then we'll just tighten that up. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is to put on the front wheel so it starts looking like a bike. So let's take off these protective covers, and the wheel will have two protective covers. You can just pull those right off. Sometimes this one doesn't come off too easily, so what you can do instead is get the quick release. So inside your box of accessories, this will be the quick release for the wheel. And to install this, you first need to remove the safety instructions. And one of the springs stays on one side, one on the other. So to put it in, you need to unscrew, take off one of the springs, feed it through the wheel, and I just like to give it a quick pop, and that pops off the plastic from the other side. The spring goes on small part of the spring first, and then the lock nut. Put that on a little way. Make sure the wheel is spinning nice and freely. Otherwise you would need to make some more adjustments, which is a bit more technical, but this is running freely. See if there's any instructions on the wheel which way the drive goes. This one does. So rotation is this way, so I need to have the wheel this way. Doesn't really matter which way you put the quick release, it can go on either side, but the tires do need to go a certain direction. Some bikes, some tires don't have directions, they're unidirectional. This one does. So now we're tightening both sides, tightening this side, but we need to make it so the quick release will tighten it fully. So now it's in the open position, this is in the closed position. It's best to have it facing away from the drive so no stick can run into it. So it's a case of just playing around until you get a fine thing. So you can press this, that's too light, a little bit more. I'm tightening on this side. Now that's quite a good pressure, so it gets a little bit of pressure on the palm of your hands, but not too tight. We'll go one more time. That looks good. And also make sure it's centered in the middle of the forks, which it should line up pretty much by itself. Give it a spin. That's good to go. At this point, I'm going to start removing some of the protective packaging so I can see what else I need to do. Just carefully remove it. These are just on with stickers. I think we're going to have to tear this along the top. Just carefully tearing it, taking your time. There's no rush. And removing it slowly from the wheels, make sure it's not sticking on anything. That should come right out. That's looking good. Next thing we'll do is install the pedals. So the pedals, very important. You have a right pedal and a left pedal, and they do need to go on that side. The left hand side pedal is reverse thread, so you tighten it, you go counterclockwise. The right pedal is normal thread. So with these I like to put a little bit of grease. I have some marine grease, so let's start with the left pedal and simply just put a little bit of grease on the thread. not too much, don't spill it. And with these ones, you can tighten with an Allen key once you've started getting it going. So again, this one, the left hand side is reverse thread. First of all, start with doing this just with your hands. Make sure it's nice and straight going in. That's going in well. And once you've got it in all the way, then you can get your Allen key and go around the other side. And you can just tighten it from the back. So there's a hole all the way through. Simply tighten it from the back. There she goes. That one looks good. These are a little tight out of the factory. I would like to see those spinning a little bit more. It might just be the bearings are tight, or maybe they're designed like that. And then we'll do the same on the right hand side. The right hand side is regular thread. Just the same, just a little bit. And again with this one, you start by threading it by hand. Make sure the pedal is nice and straight going in. It shouldn't be hard to put these in. If it's going in hard, then unscrew it, take it out, and try putting it back in more straight. Once you've got that in most of the way, then you start fastening it with the Allen key from the other side. Right here, put in your Allen key all the way around, and just twist it in. Okay, that's nice and tight. Okay, so this I believe goes on next, the pannier rack. And here you have 2 bolts at the top which connect these, so they'll need to be removed. 2 bolts at the bottom, and these will go on the inside of the fender. So let's just put it into position to see what it's going to look like. It's going to be resting like that, and it'll be the top fender. So we need an Allen key to remove these. We can remove those now. Okay, so 2 bolts, one here at the top of the triangle. You can see I'm just using a regular Allen key set here that you'll probably have lying around in the kitchen. Okay, so now we have all the bolts off. We can slide the pannier rack over, making sure to be careful not to scratch anything. Make sure the brake lever, the rear brake lever, is on the outside. And we're going to put all 4 of them in nice and lightly for now to make sure it's in the right location. So I'll do the same on the other side. You just have to be very careful to line up the hole. And remember that the rack goes on the outside of the bicycle frame. Okay, so not gonna lie, these 2 took quite a while to get them into the holes there. They're very stiff thread. So I don't know if all the bikes come like that, but as you can see, it's quite tight. Now I just need to make sure the bottom ones are tight. And at the same time, you can remove the other screw. And then you put the fender in place, put the bolt through, and retighten the bolt. So that's going to look like so. Make sure there's no play, and then repeat for the other side. Okay, so now we've got the fender, rear fender on, rear pannier rack on. It's time to check out the gears. First thing is to remove this plastic guard. And these are, I can never seem to remove these without breaking, but it goes right through the frame. You need to push it down and it'll slide out. I always end up breaking it. What do you know, I just managed to do it. So now if you have a rack, this is a good time to check your gears. So we can just, gear number 1 at the top, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. This might be a little tight. It's not coming down the gears well. Let's try and loosen a little bit. Okay, so 10 minutes later, after playing with gears, we've got them working. I needed to unfasten the cable, make it a little bit tighter. This was super loose, and also adjust the HL thing. So now we're in 7th, 6, 5, 4, 3, to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fast change all the way to 1 and all the way back down. That's running well. So while we've got it going, we'll put a little bit of lubrication on. My recommendation is muck off dry lube or wet lube if you're using this in the wet weather. Spin the bike in reverse. Add a thin layer onto the bike. Okay, next we'll put on the front fender. We're going to take off the brake calipers. And then let's put this through. And we'll put the curved one back on, facing towards the frame. Lift this up through there. Oh. Okay, after a lot of fighting, it looks like I've got the front fender on. I did have to take off the back bolt, then I placed it in between the spacer and the other spacer with the groove in it. Put it down here. It was also, you can see here, you can tell it's bent. Comes out a little bit, but anyway, it's in and it's running freely. So the next thing to do is to tighten the brakes, because the brakes are super loose. And I'm not going to adjust these here because they're too loose, so I need to release the cable and tighten them that way. So that's the next job. Some squeezing in the brake pads so they're just not touching. There's a little bit of rub. It might be just be the wheel. Center the wheel, much better. And now we still have play at the top to tighten it over time. So there we tightened it by 1/2 inch on the cable there from factory settings. So now we could have done it up here, would have still been loose, and then the owner wouldn't have had any space to adjust it. So that's that. Next is to attach the cable clips so they don't bounce off each other. Okay, so we're going to install the reflector right at the center. For this one we're going to install like this and screw from the bottom. And next we can just remove the rest of the packaging. So the seat packaging. And something up here with a little zip tie. And finally the packaging in the middle. And there we have the final bike. Not an easy bike to build. One of the harder ones, in fact, out of the mountain bikes that I build. This one just because of the fenders and the pannier rack. Not too easy to build. I would recommend you hire a professional to build this one for you. And also don't forget to inflate your tires. That's it for me. Hope this video was useful. Hire a professional. See you on the next one. Bye.